we go to a hearing in Ypsilanti, Michigan. 31-year-old Michael Carter's been charged with driving with a suspended license. He appears today before Judge Elaine Washington, who will determine next steps in Carter's case. But first, prosecuting attorney Kyle Bradell calls the judge's attention to Carter's surprising call-in location for today's hearing.
I do feel the need to point out he is in a vehicle. Mr. Banas, you know if your client's in the back seat or if he's in the driver's seat?
Looks like the back seat to me, but
I suppose, Judge, if he could just turn his camera and show that he's in the back seat, that would be enough to satisfy me. I don't know if Mr. Banas wants to instruct his client to do that yet.
Mr. Banas, here, this is your opportunity.
Your Honor, if we could have a breakout room, then I think I could at least make some representations to the court about what I believe is going on.
When Carter and his lawyer return from the breakout room, the prosecutor notices something a bit different about Carter.
Judge, he's clearly in a different seat.
The prosecutor seems annoyed, but he'll still offer Carter a plea deal.
He can plead to no ops on person at this time.
No operator's license is a lesser charge, but it would still be added to Carter's driving record.
I got a question, ma'am.
Oh, hold on, sir. I'm going to advise you not to say anything.
Okay.
Of course, there's no evidence that he's driving, but prosecutor has the ability to make whatever offer he feels is appropriate. So, Mr. Carter, if you want to resolve the driving while license suspended misdemeanor, you could plead guilty to a slightly less serious misdemeanor called no operator's license on person, which has 0 points. And I would ask the judge to sentence you to a fine. Are you interested in that?
No, I'm not.
All right, I'm gonna adjourn all these matters to November the 1st. That is the last adjournment on this particular case. And at that point in time, your client will need to determine whether he wants to accept an offer or to set this for a trial.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll see you then.
In the end, Carter's decision to reject the plea deal worked out, as the case was later dismissed by the prosecutor. Next, we take you to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a sentencing. 21-year-old Eamon Washington has pled guilty to second-degree reckless homicide and second-degree reckless injury. A year earlier, Washington, who had a suspended license, was racing his friend Kevin Hightower while on the way to an ATM to get cash. The two cars were speeding, weaving in and out of traffic, when Washington crashed into another vehicle, killing 7-year-old London Cassidy. London was riding with her mother, who was also seriously injured in the crash. According to investigators, Washington was driving 107 miles an hour, just seconds before the crash in a 40-mile-an-hour speed zone. Washington and Hightower both left the scene of the accident, but were arrested a week later. Washington was initially charged with several felonies, including hit and run, but he took a deal and pled guilty to 2 of the more serious charges: second-degree reckless homicide and second-degree reckless injury. Today at sentencing, Washington appears before Judge Glenn Yamahiro to hear his punishment. The maximum he could receive is 27.5 years in prison. But first, Washington, who's been in custody for almost a year, makes a statement to the court.
I am very sorry for the actions that I did, and part of this accident, I'm sorry for speeding down the street. I was just trying to have fun with my friend at the time. I never intended to hurt nobody. I never intended to hurt that little girl. The first thought that crossed my mind was turning myself in, making sure that that family get justice, and I still want to see them get justice today, so I honestly don't know what to say. I can't argue with the fact that they wish to see me get the maximum time. I agree. I can't be mad at them. I just hope that they can eventually come to forgive me so I can forgive myself, But until then, I'm just sorry.
When Washington is finished, the judge has a statement of his own.
If there are many things in this life worse than having to bury your own child, I'm not sure what they are. There are no winners here, everyone's losing. I'm not here to judge him. I'm here to judge what happened, what needs to be done, young men in particular, have been driving fast since cars were invented. People are trying to demonstrate their manliness. You could call it whatever you like. And people in their late teens, early 20s, like yourself, frequently do not consider the consequences of their actions. I am not concluding that you had zero remorse here. I don't find this a situation where you're beyond rehabilitation, but this was a completely avoidable situation. Cars can kill people. It's not a video game. And far I'm concerned, in this community, it's the number 2 weapon at this time. So with the exception of firearms, this is it.
When he's done, the judge issues his sentence. 12 years in a state prison with credit for time served, plus 6 years of extended supervision. As for Hightower, Washington's friend who was speeding in the other vehicle, he was sentenced to 3 years probation. London's mother continues to recover from her injuries. Next, we're in Inkster, Michigan for a probation violation hearing. 61-year-old Aaron Butler has pled guilty to driving without a license and, in a separate incident, driving with a suspended license. He was sentenced to 2 years probation and ordered to pay a fine of $500. And because he has a history of substance abuse, he was ordered to check into a rehab facility at the local jail and wear an electronic tether to track his location. But after 8 days, the treatment center mistakenly removed the tether, and Butler walked out and used cocaine. After testing positive for the drug, he was ordered back into court.
Mr. Butler on screen.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Today, Butler appears remotely before the same judge who sentenced him, Sabrina Johnson.
Mr. Butler, are you prepared to plead responsible to the violation? Or would you like to have a hearing with regard to the violation?
I just ain't got, I haven't even started probation yet. I'm supposed to be released at that time, but they didn't let me out. Somebody messed up the paperwork. I was in there 8 extra days after I talked to you. I'm supposed to be
I told
released.
you that I wasn't going to release you from the guidance center. Because as soon as you got out,
Yeah, I've stayed in there 8 extra days.
yeah, I know.
Somebody messed up.
Why did you think you were getting out?
Cause I was
I
done with that.
didn't
You
think you were
already,
getting
you
out.
told me I was getting out.
No, I did not. You couldn't wait to get out, to get high. You couldn't wait.
That's what I mean, I wouldn't
I'm not
think.
gonna release you. I'm not gonna release you. I'm gonna keep the tether on you so you stay in the guidance center.
Before moving on, the judge has a few more questions for the defendant.
You didn't know that you couldn't use cocaine on probation?
No,
You didn't know that?
no, I had to go. I was upset that day. I was still locked up.
Right.
I was upset. That's the only reason I used it. I ain't gonna sit here and tell you no tale. I'm too old to be telling tale, but I used it because I was upset because I was still locked up.
Right. Well, you're gonna be really upset then. It's going to find you guilty of a violation, or you serve 30 days jail. Case number 190573OT, or is going to find guilty of the violation, or you serve 30 days jail. Those are consecutive.
I had to go to the doctor that day.
Yeah.
I had to go to the doctor that day.
And then you got hot, right?
All right, well, just send me some paperwork.
No, I'm not sending you any paperwork. You're going to turn yourself in here at the court Friday, 9:38. This Friday.
If I do this time, I don't owe y'all no money or nothing, huh?
No, you're
I said,
done.
no, I have to owe y'all no money or nothing. I'll just be squashed right now.
You don't tell me what's
I'm
gonna
not- I'm
happen.
just-
I'm
no,
telling
Your Honor,
you.
I'm-
If you would stop talking and listen, you'd hear what's happening. Now, I'm gonna give you 8 days credit on the matter, and then we'll close out the probation, waive fines and costs, you're done.
Yes, all right, thank you.
Anybody else ready, Mr. J?
I can get off this.
Keep talking, Mr. Butler.
You done with me?
Way done.
Judge Johnson allows the defendant's parting comment to slide, but sentences him to a total of 60 days in jail, with credit for 8 days already served. Butler completed his sentence, and his case is closed. Next, we're in Eureka, Kansas for a virtual hearing. 8 months earlier, 33-year-old Jesse Greenwell, who was free at the time on a personal recognizance bond for a marijuana possession charge, was pulled over for speeding and driving with a suspended license. He was arrested, pled guilty to the marijuana charge, and was sentenced to a year of probation. Then, in a separate plea deal, Greenwell pled guilty to the suspended license charge, and the speeding charge was dropped. He was fined $208 and given a suspended sentence of 120 days in jail. Later, while free but still on probation for the marijuana charge, he failed to appear at multiple hearings, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. A judge amended his probation and gave him a deadline of 90 days to pay that $208 fine. But then, Greenwell was arrested again, this time for aggravated assault and trespassing. Today, he appears from the Butler County Detention Facility before Judge Phyllis Webster, who first wants to talk about his unpaid fine.
All right, so why have you not paid anything on your fines and costs?
I was only out for like two weeks. I didn't have time to do anything. If you could please continue the matter, give me some more time, and I will pay it when I get out.
You were ordered to pay $208, and you told me you could get that paid by today. And you're here telling me the reason you didn't is because after I sentenced you, you went back into jail. Is that your reason why you didn't pay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Since Greenwell failed to pay his fine on time, which is a violation of his probation, the judge believes Greenwell owes the state some additional jail time. But Greenwell believes he's already served the 120 days.
I've already done the 4 months on all of it.
How do you figure that?
I'd already done 2 months waiting to get probation, and then I sat another 2 months waiting for you guys to just throw my probation and everything out. And you can check up here with the jail and everything. I've already done it all.
The judge disagrees and only shows Greenwell serving 52 days. But the defendant is done discussing the matter.
I don't want to talk about none of this. You have to talk about that with my attorney. They wouldn't have released me from the jail if I wouldn't have had it served.
Okay, sir, what I need to do is reappoint Mr. Patterson so he can help you understand this. 120 days
I'm not going to
jail
argue about this.
with 52 days of credit for time served.
You're still arguing with me about it.
With a balance of 68 days left to serve, for which I released the defendant on probation, and that is what the journal entry reflects, correct, Mr. Regier?
No, they didn't let me out on probation.
The public defender, Darren Patterson, tries to clarify the situation.
Well, if the court would want to set it over for a short time and I could get the records of how much he served.
I'm telling you, Mr. Patterson, they wouldn't have let me out in January if I hadn't served all my time.
Okay, well, let's get
I
the
would
records.
still be sitting in jail and they wouldn't let me out.
Let's get the records and I'll meet with you and talk about it.
So how much time would you recommend?
30 days, Judge.
Greenwell seems unhappy with that decision and walks away from the camera.
Where did the defendant go? What's going on at the Butler County Detention Facility?
What do you mean what's going on? What's going on with you? They wouldn't let me out of jail if I got my freaking 120 days served. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay? You need to go back on your little computer there and find out what you're talking about because I already served all my time on it. Okay? That's the only reason why I'm here today is to pay or appear. for the fines that they gave me on that case.
All right, I was making notes. I looked up and someone else was there. Did you excuse yourself or what happened there? Where did you go?
Did I excuse myself? No, I don't need to sit here for 3-4 hours for you to tell me something I done heard 6 or 7 times already.
All right, that was contemptuous language. Make sure you don't do it again or you're going to be looking at some more jail time for contempt.
But Greenwell gets up again, and this time actually leaves the hearing.
Your Honor,
Sir?
on the Greenwell case, the court is not making a finding of contempt at this time.
I'm going to give him a break today.
Greenwell was spared from a contempt charge, but for violating his probation, he was required to serve the remaining 68 days in jail. As far as his other case, he pled guilty to aggravated assault and criminal trespass and was sentenced to an additional 30 days in jail, plus 6 additional months of probation. And he still owes the court $208. Next, we're in Detroit, Michigan for a plea hearing. 57-year-old James Garner is facing several driving with a suspended license charges, plus driving without insurance and other traffic violations. Today, Garner appears before Judge Sean Perkins to discuss if he'll go to trial or take a possible plea offer.
Appearance for the record, please.
Sherika Harris on behalf of Mr. Garner. Mr. Garner, please state your name for the record.
First off, I do have a couple.
You got to state your name first. You got to state your name first.
No, I think Mr. Garner is going to represent himself. Am I correct, Mr. Garner?
I'm representing myself in what? I mean, I'm confused about what's actually going on. First off, who's alleging these charges? That's what I'm curious about.
State of Michigan, City of Detroit.
Okay, well, if that's the case, there's a common law principle which states that for there to be a crime, there must be a victim. Corpus delicti. The state cannot be the injured party. And in the absence of a victim, there can be no crime.
Garner seems to be using a sovereign citizen argument.
How do you want to proceed, Mr. Garner?
Well, the court haven't even established jurisdiction. I mean, the jurisdiction has to be established first. Once jurisdiction is challenged, that must be settled before charges can be brought.
All right, do you want to put that in a motion, sir?
As far as I'm concerned, any and all charges must be dismissed because there is no complaining witness.
If that's your motion, I'm going to deny the motion. Okay? So, we're not going to keep going back and forth.
Respectfully, in order for this to continue, the state cannot be a complaining witness. The law states there must be a victim. I'm just requesting, who is the victim?
The citizens of the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan are the victims.
The state cannot be a victim.
I said the citizens of the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan are the victims.
If that's the case,
Mr. Garner, can we just go into a breakout room and then maybe I can give you a little bit of advice to assist you with moving forward?
Sure.
After speaking with the public defender, Garner returns to the hearing.
What do you want to do, Mr. Garner? Do you want a trial date or you want an offer? Those are really your only 2 options.
Okay, since we are on the record, all I'm asking for.
Okay, one last time. Now listen, here's how it's going to go from this point on. If you don't answer the question that I asked specifically, then I'm going to hold you in contempt of court.
So you're telling me,
Mr. Garner, we're not going to have a conversation. Stop, sir. Now, that's the last time I'm going to ask you to
on the law. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm going to hold Mr. Garner in contempt of court because he is directly violating the court's order. I've asked him repeatedly to not interfere or add any extra commentary to this case. I've given him ample time to answer the court's question, and he continues to refuse to do so. So now I'm going to hold you in contempt, and I'm going to sentence you to 30 days Wayne County Jail. No early release.
Garner refuses to go quietly.
So I have a question.
I'm not answering any more of your questions. Turn yourself in to the Wayne County Jail today.
So the court is going to be in direct violation of my rights in the law. Is that where we're standing?
If that's how you feel, have a good day, sir.
Garner failed to report to the county jail, and the judge issued a bench warrant for his arrest. The case is pending. Next, we're in Centerville, Michigan for an arraignment. 36-year-old Justin Aiken has been charged with driving with a suspended license and driving without insurance. He appears today before Judge Jeffrey Middleton.
I don't know whether there's any sort of plea offer at this point. Probably isn't. What was your advice, Ms. Jackson?
I advised him that he should plead not guilty, ask for a pretrial, and pay off what is suspending him, which is basically a couple of tickets.
That's not bad advice. What would you like to do, sir?
Well, there's case laws here that states that the use of an automobile is necessary due to the earnings of a livelihood is modern life. And then the right to operate a automobile upon the public streets and highways is not a mere privilege. It is a right of a liberty, the enjoyment of which is protected by the guarantees of the federal and state constitutions.
Aiken seems to be playing the sovereign citizen card, believing that certain laws don't apply to him.
And a traveler has an equal right to employ an automobile as a means of transportation and to occupy the public's highways.
So does that mean you want to plead not guilty to this stuff?
Yes.
But you are woefully misinformed. Well, everything you just said has no meaning to whether or not you need a valid driver's license or insurance in the state of Michigan. I don't know who's teaching you this, whether you learned it yourself off the internet or you've got a mentor that is taking you down this rabbit hole. But everything you just said has an empty thimble's full worth of effect on anything. You seem like a nice young man. So I'm going to show you a plea not guilty.
It states right here, under U.S. Supreme Court decision, that common law is the real law, the supreme law of the land, that codes, rules, regulations, policy, and statutes are not the law.
I'm not sure where you get this stuff. If that were true, you wouldn't need me, you wouldn't need police, you'd have anarchy and people rioting in the streets. You're entitled to be misinformed, and you're entitled to believe what you want. The bottom line is you need to have a valid driver's license, you need to have insurance. When you were young, you took driver's ed, you did all the steps you needed to do to get a valid license?
Correct, I did then. That was before I actually started researching into law, actual common law of the United States of America, which is common law, God's law. Legal is undoing of God's law, illegally. That's what it comes down to. I mean, I know you don't know it. It's just there's a whole bunch of fraud.
Well, I didn't just fall off the turnip truck. I've been here for 42 years, and people have been making these harebrained arguments for years, and they don't carry any weight. And I'm sorry that you have gone down this path, but it isn't going to be beneficial. We'll see where this goes.
Aiken has pled not guilty, and his case is pending.
All right, good luck, sir. We'll probably talk further.